and we did get from creating our own economy, and now we are touching on legal matters. Now, as we get through this, you can actually follow us on our social media handles. We are live on Facebook. That is at @StarFM_ZW. Of course, you can ask a couple of questions on the WhatsApp platform. That's on 077. To tag across our social media platforms, it is at @StarFM_ZW. Hashtag legal matters, hashtag the morning galaxy, and you can also tag at Erica Ndoro. Nyari, good morning.
Good morning, Erica and Daxua.
I know you're looking so bright, and I'm telling people there's no Monday blues, but I'm wearing like black. But I'm in a different space altogether right now. But you are looking like the kind of Monday we should be having.
Right, thank you very much. I'm feeling it.
Okay, so this morning you're feeling it.
Yeah.
Lovely. So this morning we're going to be touching on my birth certificates and angling on a couple of nuggets. Like, why should you? It sounds silly, it sounds watered down when you say to people, why should a person have a birth certificate? There was a particular juncture at which I wanted to help out someone. Since look at her passport, I can actually do it for you. She says to me, and I'm like, your birth certificate. Then she says to me, I don't know. And so her mom went on to, she passed on. Akatosara, this was a helper of mine. Akatosara astorina birth. So now I had to say to her, can you go back? Then she actually came back and she said, no one ever got me. So where is your ID number? How? I'm talking about someone who was well in her 25s.
Wow.
I see now. So it's not something. It sounds silly if you are part of the metro, if you're an urban person, but if you're not part of the metro, you don't understand.
It's like no big deal.
So we're going to be touching on that, birth records, who can collect the birth certificate for you. And like we said, if you've got questions on this one, please do hit us up on the WhatsApp platform. That's on 0772162651. Nyari, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Erica. Hi, everybody. Yeah, Nasitsukuta, a very, very important topic of birth certificates. It seems like it's like a non-topic, but it affects everybody everywhere and in different ways. So maybe to start off with, if we're talking about birth certificates, clearly it's a certificate. It will register your birth, your existence, if I can put it that way. So it's a birth register where we go to the registrar of births and deaths, whether ku kana muri muno Marare zvinotangira ku Market Square, tobozvati kuma offices a registrar ku Market Square, and ultimately zvinozosvika ku Makombe building. And so it's important that everyone who is a citizen of Zimbabwe, right, whether by birth or whichever other way, you need to have your birth registered. This country needs to have your reason, needs to open a file on you. Kuti tiziye kuti uriko wakazvarwa, and kuti tiziye kuti you know what rights do you have, what rights don't you have, where do you come from, who are your parents, and beyond that, kuti wakukwanisa kufamba uri an individual before vanga vasingaise ID numbers from a birth certificate. Actually, I think vakazvitanga maybe about 20-25 years ago, but before that waingopiwa birth certificate wozo ndochitoresa manje chitupa chinenge chine registration yako ye-ID. But now I notice kuti pama birth certificate, the minute you are kutoita birth certificate urubva ID yako, and that's important because your ID is your identity document.
You now get an ID. You mean you get the ID number, right? But not the actual ID.
You get the ID number. So now they're putting the ID number on the birth certificate, which is actually pretty important. And so every person in Zimbabwe must have a birth certificate. And if you remember, there was, I think, no, in fact, there's a law in Takura ID yako everywhere. Auchatakuri birth certificate, wakutakura the smaller chikwangwani chekuti unokwanisa kuisa pocket kana purse kana wallet, right? So that kana ukamiswa ukanzi ndiwe ani uri kuita nezve kana kuti ukadhungwa nemota, the first thing they're going to check is kuti munhu uyu ndiani. So tikatakira pa birth certificate, it's important that munhu wese ange achikwanisa kuidentifyiwa kuti what's your name, where do you come from, who are your parents. I don't know if they put a village there. I think that's a village by my ID. And so you will see kuti kana usina birth certificate, pane zvimwe zvikoro zvisingatotori vana vasina mabirth certificate. Kozoita futi zvekuti how do you write O level yako kana A level yako pasina birth certificate? Because vamwe, you know, like I'll give you an example. Pane vanachipiwa anditika. In Shona, you won't believe it, Erica, but the official shortening of Chipiwa is Chipo. So you'll see kuti pa birth certificate paper kanyorwa kunzi Chipiwa, but isusu tiri kuti Chipo, and it's still the same name, it's fine. But hazvichaitwi kuti ndinonzi Chipo moyo pa certificate rako re O level. Taakuda kuchiona kuti according to the register of the country, what is your official name, your full name. So ngoti anonzani Bill Clinton, pana vasingatozive full name ra Bill Clinton, wozati ndi Bill Clinton, you know, but mukazotedza pa birth certificate rake muchaona kuti pakanzi William Jefferson Clinton, hachitori nei na Bill, you know, but iri famous ndi Bill.
Yeah, for pseudonyms have always had people misled. It sounds funny, but in a lot of cases you then find people who get pregnant and they don't know who they're dating. Ada unomsungisa kubasa kwakadaita maintenance osukapana pasta FM oti achaga blajedza. It was important to find out stare munu chairo because jedza can mean anything, and it all just stems to just knowing and putting these intricate details into forward to say but munu anonza anobva kupi, and all that is found on that one paper. Now, of course, we must take questions from the listeners. 0772162651. Questions will head toward things like if, let's say, I move out of the country with my son. Or whatever case, but outright. Can I send someone to go and fetch a birth certificate for me?
If there is already a registered repo, and it's kutoresa birth certificate kunotoda mubereki.
Kutoresa kunoda mubereki.
But kana ratopa mwana akatotorerwa birth certificate, so what you want is just a duplicate copy. And you can actually send someone. Ivo vanonzotaura kuti ndikuramba munhu maybe andisende mimwe chete, plus you can always go to a lawyer. It's just we are allowed kunyora tichikumbira kuti tokumbirawo a duplicate copy of a birth certificate, of a death certificate, of a marriage certificate. If it's coming from a legal office, you can do that, because you know, nema certificates around. So you absolutely can do that. But if, you know, funny enough, last week na story ku registers the person dates and ndakaona vachitonzi vese vakazvara vana kunze kwenyika QE, you know, vakawanda.
Wait, ukazvara mwana kunze kwenyika, don't you get a birth record from that country?
You can get a birth record from that country, so but your certificate
what of nationality? Because is it not by constitutional right in whatever country that you are in, that if you are born there you are now a citizen of that country? So why would you get a certificate here?
Fortunately now, panda dual citizenship. So you want to benefit because you know and then
it was nullified for I think about 12 years
or something, and then patakazoita the new constitution re-established. So it makes life so much easier. So you can choose America, obviously by you know, by location. Mwana anonzi akasharirwa muAmerica saka it's an American citizen, so you can get your citizenship ikoko, but you can still come back to Zimbabwe, because you don't want to come to Zimbabwe as a visitor uchida kana nemwana uchida kuzotsvaga mavisa okuti uye kuno ane limited time, so people can enjoy dual citizenship. So you are allowed to then come uzonyoresa mwana wako as a citizen, not by birth but by heritage.
I think I'm working around that. Now also, Nyari, I think before we continue, just as a reminder, you could be just joining us. First things first, thank you so much for making us your station of choice at Star FM, the Morning Galaxy, and Uniform 2 Mondays we speak legal matters. Speaking to Nyaradzo Maposa, and this morning we are touching on birth certificates. Now if you do have questions, please do come through on the WhatsApp platform. That's on 0772162651. 651. And also, you can come through across our social media platforms at @StarFM_ZW at the Morning Galaxy. You can hashtag get a birth certificate. You can tag me at Erica Ndoro. Do your social media handles as we go with it.
So on Facebook, guys, you can find me on Advocate Nyari Maposa. You will find the same handle called YouTube, and my telephone number is 0774 344 527.
I love that, Nyari. Okay, so as we go on my birth certificates, say mubereke ashaya and anga aita mwana wake wenda naye kana kumusha. And then hapana birth certificate, and maybe a birth record is misplaced, and now the parent is not there, and maybe it's an unfortunate situation where we don't know who the father of the child is. How or who can help this child get a birth certificate? What order and principality is needed at the registrar? Who goes with this child?
Okay, so maybe before I come to that question, I need everybody to know kuti pakuregister vana zvinoregistiwa kwaregistrar of birth and deaths. Number 1 birth. Number 2 stillbirth.
You register a stillbirth.
Yes,
okay.
You have to register a stillbirth because mwana akaita womb escape, but not a womb escape. Akaita womb escape, and then the third thing you register is death. So it's very important kuti chero mwana ashaika kunofana ndoregister kuti kune mwana akati akazvarwa pakati hospital yakati kana clinic wakati and akazoshaika, because the whole point is we register birth. Saka kana mwana azvarwa zvasiyana ne spontaneous abortion or a miscarriage.
They call it a spontaneous abortion.
Yeah, it's spontaneous abortion. Yeah.
I mean, what terminology?
So, I know. So when kana mwana ashaikira mudumbu, and you see kuti or mwana ana kutozosvika papoint yekuti achabuda, and it then just Lowy and a way of saying it. Ndoti kushodza. I think kushodza is an animal. What do we call, if somebody just miscarries, and they talk about it, somebody miscarried.
I'm the wrong person to
I know there seems to be a word, Ripo. So anyway, but kana mana azharwa ozoonekwa kuti mwana anga afa, but akati kuzharwa. So that also needs to be on the on the birth register. It's really up to the parents, it's up to the hospital.
I think they in that case, don't they just do it as a John Doe kind of case where it's John Doe?
Something like that, but because then usually they go through cremation. Right?
Okay, let's take another question. 0772162651 if you're just joining us at the Star FM, and speaking to Advocate Nyari Maposa, and we are touching on birth certificates. Careful to take on your questions for you. I am Nyari. Can a child sue parents after I'll skip this one for a particular reason? 0772162651. Okay, I don't think that they quite got the answer on who is to go and claim a birth certificate from mwana akashaikirwa nembereki asati anaro.
So that's where I was going now. Kuti, in the first place, munhu anonzi andotoresa birth certificate remwana mubereki. Okay, it is the parent of the child. Now we split it into two. We've got parents who are married, right? Vabereki vari in wedlock. Automatically, the mother, of course, apana doubt usually pamsoro pamai, but automatically the father, vane mwana akazharwa in wedlock, and it meaning mwana uyo ari legitimate. Ndo vanotonyorwa pa birth certificate kuti ndo baba. So understand this is very important, because mwana wese anozharwa within wedlock, mwana wa baba ivavo chero ari wechikomba. We understand.
Saka hakuna zvekunzi mwana wekunze.
Zvinonzi gomba rina mwana, right? Chikomba hachina voice. Kuti kana wakaitisa mukadzi wemunhu nhumbu, mwana yeye anotongotorwa kunzi mwana wani, mwana webaba vemo, until pazoitika maprocesses aya ekuti iwo wazouya uchiti aiwa actually mwana uyu ndewani ndewangu hazi mwana wababa vari mumba, right? Number one. And then poitwa process inonzi illegitimatization process, and panotakapetwa ma-DNA akabuda achitaura kuti sure mwana uyu is not the child of the legal father or the father of the marriage, mwana we-another man, zhobva zvaproviwa. Then if that other man wishes to take over mwana uyu, what then happens is you have to apply to court to we call it, it's a very weird term, Erica, it's a bastardization process, right? So it's an application for bastardization, meaning
it's quite fumbling, but I get why it is. Because people think the word bastard is actually a bad word evil. Because of how we've started to apply it in different contexts. But it's not. Yeah.
But yeah, so basically a bastard is an illegitimate child. Is a child who was born by people who were not married to each other. I know, Erica, you already.
I'm holding my I had to remind myself I'm on radio.
So anyway, what happens is the court is the only one that is allowed to make a declaration of the change of status of anyone. So that's why kana vanhu vachindorambana vanofanira court, because the court ndo yakukuchinja from your status from married to divorced.
And you get your 7 days in the paper as well.
Yes, something like that. And then so with legitimate and illegitimate children, mwana akazvarwa achipresumiwa kuti they are legitimate. Only the court can determine kuti hausisiri legitimate wa illegitimate. Kana kuti, funny enough, if a child is born by two parents who are not married to each other, vabereki vaya papa vozororana, mwana anotochinja from illegitimate automatically to legitimate. Even akarorwa vana.
Drama, like what?
Yeah, so you know, you have people changing statuses all the time, and the court has to give the order, right? So munhu anoenda kundotoresa mwana birth certificate kana iri out of wedlock ndimai vacho, okay? Ndimai vacho vanobvumidzwa kuti vaende, but kana vaenda kundotoresa mwana birth certificate havabvumidzwe kutaura kuti ningi John Don ndiye baba, havabvumidze iyoyo zita iro rarinyorwa.
What?
Because for us to know, to determine paternity, there has to be a paternity test.
I get that.
Excuse me. And I'm Brad Pitt. You know what I mean?
You know what? That's such an Erica thing to do. Like, I just get them like, oh, I feel like my baby daddy could be Chris Brown.
Exactly. So because registrar, you know, so if you are not in wedlock, you're not allowed to put zita remurume rongoti ndivo baba vacho ndotozviziva hando baba vacho handiyega.
I swear
you can't. Exactly. you can't do that. So that's why I think kare vaitoti unza the chitupa chababa kana chinyore zita rani rababa. But now they can even be more stringent kutoti baba vacho ngavadini ngavauye vazotaura kuti ndiri baba vacho.
Takes us to our next question on that one, Nyari, but I will take a break right there just as a reminder. If you are joining us, it is the Morning Galaxy on Star FM, speaking on birth certificates. And like we said from the beginning, it seems like something that could be watered down, but it's actually a very serious thing that you should take heed of, because it controls different elements of your life. So you can actually come through on the WhatsApp platform and you can ask questions, because we are speaking to Advocate Nyara Zomaposa, and she is here to take on a couple of questions on birth certificates, and that's on 0772162651. You can also catch up with the footage on Facebook at StarFM_ZW. On to the next question. Nyari says this one, please help. What do I do if baba vemwana vachingo drega panyaya yekunotoresa birth remwana? Our kid is now 1 year and 9 months, but baba vacho vanenge vachingoti vari kutadza tinotoresa birth riri kudiwa. What do you do in a case where you swear you know who the father is, but the father just doesn't want to come with you to get a birth certificate? What's one to do in this case?
In that case, I think endai kwa registrar. Kondotaura kuti baba vemwana vari kutadza kuuya, anditi maybe vari kushandira out of town or whatever, but vari kuda kuti dzimwe nguva vanogona kuti nyorai affidavit kana chocho kuti unzai chitupa chavo kana kuti whatever vane current requirements avo ekuti kwete baba apa hapasi kunzi baba havazikanwi, baba vanotozikanwa asi vari kutadza kuzotoresa mwana birth certificate because nyaya iripo ndeyekuti it's very possible kuti unonyoresa birth certificate otonyora kutoti father unknown and then you'll see kuti a lot of my birth certificates a lot of birth certificates akatonzwaro kutonzi father unknown but ukana vakanzi father unknown manje pane pachizori a whole lot of intricacies that then come.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Baba vaya vakafa and there's inheritance iripo iwewe usually proof yekuti ndiri mwana wababa ava ibirth certificate ka rine zita ravo you know and like I was saying kuti mwana anogona kutokura akunzi auda kuenda kuchikoro kana kuti auda kudini we and hana birth certificate and chikoro kuti zvitore mwana asina
because they are a John Doe. That's a typical case of a John Doe.
Precisely. Yeah. So if you are married though, the father can actually go to Teresa birth certificate. Vanongoproduce marriage certificate. Yes. And kana munhu achiti nini mwana ndewangu vari out of wedlock anobvumidzwa zvakare.
There are men who do that. Well done, men out there.
Yes. And obviously pane birth record robva hospital etc. iroro ndo ravanoenda naro handitika. So my social workers, they are also bound, especially vana vaya vanongozvarwa kuda anozvarwa mai vachotofa baba acho hatizivi kuti ndiani saka vana vaya vaya vakaendeswa kuma-orphanages kuma-homes ongoya osiyiwa ine basket vanotosiya mubasket vanikaita zvakanaka chose mwanenge akamborepewa kudai you know. So those kids need kuti vapiwe mazita vanotopiwa mazita but vanoassignwa a social worker.
So on their birth certificate parent colors it's what, it's unknown?
Unknown because they can't put the name of anybody.
Moving on with the questions, because of time, we're going to have to at least just kind of literally be skipping through these questions. Okay, another one says, what if you separate from your wife and she goes on to register your children in her surname without consulting you because of ink?
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to assume kuti vana venyu makavaita muri mese, right? Pamamuchiri married. So the children are legitimate. So and kana chinzi vana vanga vasati vane birth certificate ipapo, then I think one of the requirements anobvunzwa ndeyekuti are you married, are you not, etc., so that they can also see kuti hapana here rights ari kukanganisika. But the woman, I think this one is very important for me to say, kana riri first name or tongoti kana paita error birth certificate, registrar anobvumidzwa kugadzirisa error iyoyo. That's the first thing.
Error kuti surname changing.
This apa ndikubvera error chete, just any error inenge yakaiswa, whether it's
spelling error
or whatever. Then secondly, the registrar can also change your first name, right? But kana yakuchinja surname or second names, you need to go to a notary public, a lawyer called a notary public. Ndiye anopiwa mvumo, because it's a notarial deed inotoitwa, anopiwa mvumo tenda ku register of deeds kundoshandura zita resurname. Saka kana pade mubereki anozikanwa whether ari whether it's in wedlock or out of wedlock, right? Because there are a lot of people that vana vese baba utoti nyora zita rangu, I don't have a problem with that. For you to change the surname of a child, you can't do it without the consent of the other parent. It's actually one of the documents in order to require before they do the change of name.
So is the question in this case, how did this mother manage to do it?
Then the registrar will not change the name. Personal consent, acknowledgement, yeah, the other parent. Because otherwise,
Advocate, you spoke about illegitimate and legitimate wedlock, out of wedlock.
Yeah.
No concede was say out of wedlock.
Because
we might be married, maybe traditionally, now change from a surname. Is that considered as wedlock or out of wedlock?
Okay.
Because I from what you said, it seems it's easier for one marriage certificate. This is my marriage certificate, so automatically so which one is out of wedlock? And out of wedlock?
That is an excellent question. So, okay, guys, in wedlock, it's easy, kana mune certificate. But the law has said for the purposes of legitimacy of children, number one, kana makarorana customarily, unregistered customary law union, vana, they are considered legitimate. Pamberi pachona, baba vanogona kuwana rights towards vana. Anditika a guardianship, custody, access, chinchini, anditika vanogona kuwana rights kana vakabvisa damage. So vona kuti hamuna kutororana vakarorana kavamuri kutaurana anditika vatogara vese semukadzi nemurume vana vava vari legitimate. Avawo ava vakandobvisa madamages, vana havanzi legitimate because wabvisa madamages. Vanozonzi legitimate when you marry, right? Number one. Number two, however, the father can claim guardianship kuvana. The father can, apply for custody kana you're not individual. Kana kuti vanokwanisa kuwana, vanokwanisa kuwana mamwe rights anouya namadamages. So, essentially in Zimbabwe, we know kuti tinema marriages atataura yaya, the customary registered marriage, the customary unregistered marriage, the civil marriage. Izvozvo zviri zvitatu zvinoita kuti vana vanzi vari legitimate.
Saka ndinoene tsamba yangu yerora yekuchirakidza kuti ndakarora.
Well, essentially, legitimacy is an operation of the law. Apana panonyorwa pa birth certificate kuti legitimate kana kuti illegitimate.
No, I'm saying kuti ndakuda kuzonoti ndise stara baba
ava. Munenda mese na baba and I mese na baba.
Kuti sanezi.
Because I don't go yoti ndi baba wachona, that's okay. And by the way, while we're there watching our time, you can have a man anosharirwa vana mu marriage, within his marriage. Iye achitozviziva otondonyoresa birth certificate achotadza kuti ndini baba, and there's nothing wrong with that. You understand?
But that's part of that bastardization. What?
Not even. So what will have happened here? Like there was a case, right? Let me try.
I like the look on your face, Nyari. She can't wait to tell us what happened.
No, it's so exciting. So you know what? There's a case here. There was a man. My issues were, infertility. No, varora mukadzi wake. Mhuri yake yese yatozviziva kuti iye ana issues fertility, right? Even my medical records aidaro, etc. But iye achibvarora mudzimai. For sure, in due time, mukadzi ndobva aita nhombo, right? And then ndobva vandoregister mwana wavo wekutanga. Again, in another 2 years, mukadzi ndobva aita nhombo, vandoregister mwana wavo. Now, understand that this man, was he the biological or not?
This man, so this man knows that he can't have kids.
Yeah.
He marries this woman. She just ended up pregnant. So this is the part we're trying to fill in. Did this man know who made his wife pregnant? Was this a deal that they made? Was he okay with it?
He probably did know, right? Because in Panama, of course, situation papers surrogacy. But maybe vakaita kuenda kuspa bank, maybe pada akapindira wakaita we don't know. But clearly, the father with all the full information, akaenda akandonyoresa vana vake. He loved them. Achivanisa kuma expensive schools, everything. Pakazoshaika manje murume uyu, mhuri yemukadzi vakuti iwewe mukadzi toziva kuti vana ava vazive mwana wedu, saka iwe uri pambi nevana vako chibva pano, you're not inheriting anything. And that became a court case.
Yeah,
you get it. And then court yakangodetermina kuti
murume kana akaregister vana
is the legal father of the children. Vana ava vakazvarwa within his wedlock.
I'm going to ask for the people that don't have the courage to ask this on radio. I'm going to ask for them. I know somewhere in Zimbabwe someone wants to ask this question. So would that then apply with Mwanawe girlfriend? If a man decides Erika is my girlfriend or my side chick, I've had a baby with her, I'm going to go and legally register as the father of this child. Given the unfortunate case that this man dies, can I then go and claim for my child? Because Babaka can register.
100%.
Hallelujah.
There's actually
it's never clapping hands for me. Is there something you want to tell us, Leo?
Did I?
You're like,
Did I?
Actually, we don't blame Vana for my actions and my parents are.
Yeah.
So the law has actually changed. I think in the past 5-10 years ago, Vana vese very illegitimate. kana vari vana vemufi, they will always inherit. But mai vavo, however, is still out there kusangoko. And baba vanenge vari mumba, yes, vanobvumisa ndotora birth certificate. In fact, zvinotoencourage kuti all men, please go and get birth certificates for your children. You know, musaremedza vana. Because vamwe vakutadza kuwana mikana yekuenda overseas because hana birth certificate, saka hakwanisi kutora passport, hakwanisi kutora chitupa. So, you know, I'd be honest enough kuti kana uchiziva kuti wakaitisa somebody mwana outside vana vako vese tokumbirawo kuti uva register usati sira ma-problems iwewe deala nama-problems ako.
And I think it's a community thing. I think as we just talk and congratulate each other on these twin boys, just say, but Wangu, did you register? I think Nyari, please can we just maybe crash course through this question. Says ndine brother yangu ikuda kunyora form 4 but problem ikunetsa ndekuti haana birth certificate. Almost lost the plot there. Baba vakaenda ku South Africa, then mama vakatozotera. The issue yanetsa ndekuti kubva 2015 up to now havasi kubatika. Takungotaura navo for okay, so mwana danyora form 4 vabereki vake hapo needs a birth certificate. What happens there?
Essentially zvinongodiwa na registra evidence proof anditika saka kazhinji vanowanzozoti unzai maybe hama 3 anditika they can do that. They've got various requirements avanoita kuti unzai hama dzekumba kwavo
to attest to the fact
yekuti ava ndiwo mai vanhingi kana kuti panogona kunyorwa affidavit. You know what I mean? Kana achitoramba kuti ndandisi baba vacho, I'm not interested, anogosiwa kanyorwe patonzi no one shall have their name put pabirth certificate iye asiri kuwirana nazvo because mareasons ake kuti asi kuwirana nazvo, you know, atasi maybe ari kuziva kuti papana George pasite, you know, ende kuti more men had access to this woman during the relevant time. Saka munhu anogona kuramba.
I like the terminology, so sanitized.
Exactly. So kana muchida kuzoita ndopanoti kana pane nyaya idzodzo panogona kungoitwa ma-DNA test, right? But chero paitwa DNA test hazvireve kuti munhu akufosekedzwa kuti ndaudeswa zita rako, whatever. There are all these intricacies and complexities anoitika.
We're going to put in one more. It's not particularly important order. But says here, I've got a foster child whose parents are both unknown. It's traumatic for, especially to get an ID and passport. Has me thinking, it could be that I see a kid on the street and I decide to take them in. What do I do in that particular case?
You go to social welfare. Okay. So you go to social welfare, and if you want to, you know, to say get guardianship of that child, you have to apply to the High Court so that they appoint another curator ad litem. And to appoint for all children who are below 18, which will help the High Court to assess, you know, the legitimacy of the child or the origins of the child, etc., etc. Also by information to High Court so that maybe pano appoint a guardian. And yeah, but you can also go through the adoption process, but you have to go through social welfare. Even though registrar of births and deaths.
Advocate, we're going to take this one in a minute. Erica, please can you ask Nyari for me what happens kuti munhu akanyora zita rangu pabirth iri mwana asiri wangu? I'd love to know how that happened, but what do you do to go and get your name removed from that birth certificate?
The first thing that you do is DNA test. Go and get a DNA test.
So it's not a police case?
No, it's not a police case. But and this is what akapekera stereo say like nema processes aripo. However, go and get a DNA test because that's the only way you can show kuti hasi mwana wangu. You know, it can achataridza show kuti hasi mwana wako, then you can apply to have that amendment done on the birth certificate.
Lovely. Advocate, gonna have to let you go because of time, but thank you so much. And if you were tuning into this show, we were speaking to Advocate Nyari Maposa. Your handles.
Once again, Advocate Nyari Maposa on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, and my number, of course, 0774 344 527. 0774 344 527, and we can carry on with the conversation. Absolutely
lovely. You could have missed a couple of nuggets on this conversation on birth certificates. You can catch up with it across all our social media platforms. That's at @StyFM_ZW with you into the third and final hour of the Morning Galaxy. My name is Erica Ndoro, and right now you're going to have to catch up with the news because it's 11 o'clock and it's time for the news.